like. So I found out about the job at Minnesota Composers Forum when Dan Coleman.
Oops.
Oops, I wonder what that
Didn't
was.
realize that.
That was the
It's
champagne.
there. Okay, sorry.
It's supposed to make a pop.
That's right, yeah. Opa. It's an old Jewish tradition. You sit on the champagne. When Dan Coleman mentioned it to me at a Dale Wallen singers rehearsal. I'd moved chairs for new music concerts for years, so felt well qualified for a 3-day-a-week job for $12,000. It was 1991, and I was living at the Zen Center on Lake Calhoun. I'd moved from Iowa City to sing with Ex Machina Baroque Opera. You remember that?
Yes.
That's real history. And Dale. And maybe teach ESL, since 4 degrees in music weren't getting me very far beyond selling World Book encyclopedias door to door. They had a basement room with a word processor. It had a large green character sequence on a screen, a 7-inch very floppy disk drive, and a golf ball.
I remember those.
Yeah, and a golf ball printer under plexiglass that threw fits with every carriage return. Do you remember you had to have carriage returns on the word processor? On that, I composed a resume and cover letter and printed them faintly. The interview process was bizarre. Harry Brule, who couldn't make it, had devised a set of abstract questions that were to be gone through 3 times by different staff members, the same interrogation 3 times. Each would report back what they heard to get a 3D image of the candidate's personality. I failed so spectacularly that Fritz Bergmann and Jeff Brooks figured the test must be wonky. Now apparently it's only Jeff who told them the test must be wonky. Fritz and Linda were dead against me, apparently. We mostly chatted about Michael Tippett, and Linda called Dale and Kenneth Gaburo for references, and after waiting for 3 months for no apparent reason, we had lunch at Rouen Mit Thai Cafe in the old location, and I got my first and only job. They could have just asked for my family ancestry to see what kind of administrator I would end up being. Musically, hymn writers such as Isaac Watts and George Stebbins, AGO founder, combined with the management style of Cecil Rhodes, Dick Cheney, George Bush, and George Washington. Combine all of those. They could have asked, what do you have in common with Newt Gingrich? Surprisingly Catholic tastes. He's not a relative, as far as I know. Hired by Linda under one condition. I must work hard immediately because I would become useless after 6 months. My fresh perspective as an outsider would soon be acculturated and I would have nothing to offer. So thank you for keeping me now 19 and a half years after my sell-by date. Day 1. Correct me if I'm accurate here. Or
Liz
inaccurate.
probably remembers. I don't.
Yeah, all right.
We always moved on our first day.
Well, okay. Yeah, this is the moving part. Day 1. Linda heard that there was a sale of office furniture at Munsingware. Remember the Warehouse District? There we go.
Yeah.
So we took a road trip, hauled down some Edward Hopper-style desks, and put them on Jack's trailer. One of us stood on it holding on for dear life down I-94, and I can't remember who it was. I'm sure that was illegal, dangerous. Then we got them to the elevator at the Exchange Street office. Big enough for nuns, but not for desks. Leg doors and hinges were removed, and we began work. Day 2. Hired as composer advocate. I hear from a composer whose name is right here, but I won't say out loud, who got a commission prior to my arrival for a children's opera. The program was to present it. The program that was to present it had been discontinued, and without a documented premiere, she could not receive her final payment. Would I go to the Minnesota Opera and persuade them to put it on?
That's what advocates do.
What's the name on that again?
MG are the initials. Day 3, Fritz installed Flash on the Mac Classic, so that if you had a document ready to send to someone else, you could flash them and follow a long set of instructions to receive it. Or you could walk over with a 100K floppy disk, only 3 inches. Remember that program? He's so happy to arrive at that thing. If things got quiet and we had finished all our work, we'd all go over to see the 3D movie at the Science Museum next door, where the carpet reeked of hot dog chemicals and now Scientologists. Linda, who really ought to be here listening to this, but
she's on her way.
She's not. She's on her way?
I think.
All right. preceded me in Vietnam with her delegation for friendship among women, and she liked to meet with composers and brag about the Minnesota Composers Forum, how we did so much, and all for an annual budget of only $500,000. So when we were asked by the Vietnamese Musicians Association to open an office in Hanoi, I was sent over in 1993, after a call with David Rockefeller Jr., to scope it out. It turns out they were planning on me, A, being older, B, showing up with a check for $500,000, since they had already picked out the location for the composer's house on the lake near Ho Chi Minh's mausoleum. They kept asking over the next 4 months about where the money was and when it would arrive. Maybe that's why they poisoned me with salmonella and giardia at the conservatory. The World of Vietnamese Music Festival, these are some like highlights of the 20 years I'm skipping over here. I'm not going day by day anymore. The World of Vietnamese Music Festival in 1996 was a giant 2-month gathering from all over the world. Despite being developed in close consultation with the local community, only 1 out of 40 acts was based in Vietnam, the rest overseas. 2 poets who had been in the re-education camps pulled out at the last minute and tried to shut the whole thing down. We had to see if my office window was bomb-proof. Hundreds of protesters waving old regime flags went to the Mall of America and the Walker Art Center to protest their own shows. Letters from fake organization letterhead were sent to Clinton and Wellstone, describing us as communist puppets presenting a Hanoi propaganda slideshow. All went ahead as planned, but I still meet people who said they heard nothing. They heard the whole thing had been shut down. Some happier memories. Sonic circuits lighting up, Landmark Center with projections, hippie lighting and dozens of simultaneous performances for a future-perfect event, live feeds from the embryonic internet, remote collaboration with David Van Teegum over a phone line through MIDI at the Red Eye, Anna Voog's live cam projected controversially on the walls of Gallery 8, with electronic music shows from Mississippi to Lincoln Center. An 11-year run of shows around the world, but a headache to listen to and curate all the entries, separating great from not. Curating the Walker Gallery 8 series of shotgun wedding collaborations. Jazz bassist Anthony Cox didn't know any of the artists who had applied and asked me what a pipa was. He said he'd try that. Gao Hong, after having the phone message translated, said, "No, what is jazz? I'm a traditional player." And then her husband, Paul Dice, persuaded her. She was called upon to improvise for the first time, started off in a different key and quickly adjusted. Thus was born a lasting partnership and a whole new musical trajectory. At this point I'll intersperse. This is my dream journal, which I forgot that I had, but it's from around this time period, March the 22nd, 1993. No, 1992. So I would have been at work for about 4 months at this point, and Jeff would have curated this show that I subsequently dreamed about. Because we're kind of famous for producing the great shows at the Walker Art Center. Now you know why. After visiting the Science Museum, I go to a Composers Forum concert, the third in the ensemble series. The first was free jazz, the second was a quartet playing something by Linda Bonnell Jones, who was like the head of the Minnesota State University system. The third is the South River Youth Choir, Disneyland style, in a huge auditorium. The grand opening number, as they enter, and some were inside like robot containers, and they move around singing to a piano accompaniment. The announcer, a young high school girl, can't stay awake. Another girl shines a torch at our feet as we sit, making sure the road is clear. As the announcer talks from atop a pile of toilet paper, she falls into the arms of my neighbor, who manhandles her back onto the space in the stack. Now, one by one...
This is the dream?
This is the dream.
Okay.
Nothing like this happened.
This is day 30.
No, this sounds like a Composers Forum.
Yeah, so this is my take on a Composers Forum concert. Now, one by one, the rolls tip over. I catch some and stash them elsewhere in the stack. It goes on like this for a long time. I'm barely keeping up with the rate of activity, would be swamped if I slowed down. Okay, so that continued for a few decades. You don't remember that show?
When did your dream journal?
That was my dream journal. I just found that, so that's interspersing some of the actual memories with the invented ones.
We did that concert with those basketballs. Remember?
Douglas, you did some basketballs.
I think those Mike Ellison.
Oh, okay.
Basketballs and the knives and
At the Walker?
the Walker.
Yeah.
Running the Jerome Commissions and McKnight Fellowships is always fun. inviting 120 panelists over the course of 20 years and having only 2 of them raise their fists at each other and giving away a total of $3 million or more or less. And at this point I think we can have a little trope, because some people were invited and were unable to make it. So I will turn down this light, and here we have 3 people that some of you may recognize.
Do it.
Okay then, Vicki, Laura, and Sarah here at McKnight Foundation. How you doing?
Hi, oh, not too bad.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, we thought we'd send a message over to the Composers Forum in honor of Philip Blackburn's 20th anniversary with the forum over there.
We can't come to the party, you see. We can't come to the party, though. You know, Vicki, she's got to be up north this weekend, and I'll just tell you, I'm terrified as heck because of that flesh-eating cat that Philip's got over there. I hear, you know what I heard? I heard to feed it, you know what they do? They just shut the thing in the bathroom with a live chicken and let it go at it. I'm not going into that kind of situation, I'll tell you.
Yeah, no. So it's a real bad shame that we can't make it there and tell Philip that he's done a real good job.
Yeah.
Real good. Not
Real
too bad.
good. No.
Not too bad.
No, not too bad. No, Philip's been real special to the McKnight Foundation as well. A real special guy. I think it's because the McKnights now, Mr. McKnight was Scottish, and Philip is from Scotland too.
Philip's not Scottish. He's not Scottish.
Well, you've heard him talk. What, is he just theatrical then?
Oh, I think he's Irish. Descended from the Irish pirates. Philip Blackbeard, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, Philip
Well, that makes sense. Now that makes more. Well, he does talk fancy, none the matter.
Oh, he does.
He does talk fancy. Real gem. Real good guy. Real smart.
Yeah, he's real smart. You know, he's a doctor.
No.
Hmm?
No. What's he doing working over
I
there
don't-
at the Composers Forum then?
Oh, he's a doctor of music.
Oh. So, like, he fixes pianos?
Yeah,
Something like that?
Something like that. And then he's a big-time record producer, you know, like Phil Spector, his namesake.
Oh, yeah, like Jay-Z and
Yeah.
Padiddle.
Yeah, you know, he has that Ainava records.
Oh, sure. Well, we wanted to, Philip, in honor of your special day, you want to tell him?
Oh, yeah. So you're such a fine composer, and we love all kinds of music. So we wrote a song for you.
Only we wanted to write it in kind of a Philip Blackburn tribute style, kind of like.
Yeah.
So not anything with a melody or anything like that. More like a ambient environmental sound sculpture about the office.
Yeah, more like a, you know, a sound sculpture, like you said. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Well, there it was then. Hope you liked it.
What a thrill and an honor to work with such people. Them and you. The Philadelphia Orchestra Centennial Contest. There was a call for scores that I helped with. The director didn't like the panel's final pool, so asked for any others. I thought one had been unfairly overlooked and sent it in. They loved it, it was programmed, and Huang Ruo is now a recognized star. Panel protocols have their place, but don't always reward the exceptional. Bamboo Fest, with Preston here, a multicultural celebration of all things bamboo. Other than the city licensing inspectors refusing to allow the Vietnamese sandwiches to be sold at the landmark event, referring to the restaurant in front of us as Hu Flang Dung, it was a big hit. 1,500 visitors, tinikling dancers, angklung music, Japanese sword martial arts, ikebana kites, and flutes galore. After Homer Lambrecht set up the recording loan funds and left the forum, Linda asked me to take over the iNova label and shut it down, or see what I could do with it. We're now the nation's premier new music label. Thanks to the McKnight $1 Million Endowment and an artist-friendly non-profit business model, we have thrived. 400 titles, 800 composers, 1,400 composers, and one brand new website. Innova.new. Innova.new. So there are computers around here. You can check that out. You can do it in your own time. Scott was a helpful person in that presentation. Chris, John, the whole Innova team, and people who made that happen. That's a biggie, oh for sure. I put out my Harry Potter award-winning series that only took 20 years to make, so I know what a span of time that really is. Recordings from Vietnam, Belize, and Cuba, and now my own Ghostly Psalms, which are over on the back shelf there. If you promise to listen to it and write an Amazon or an iTunes custom review, take one for free. Otherwise you can donate whatever you want if you're just going to throw it away. But those are kind of big pieces, so I thought finally they would fit onto one CD, otherwise my stuff doesn't really document very well, which may be a perfectly okay thing by most of you. 9 volumes of Henry Brandt's work, a New York anthology of 25 years of new music there, and the Eleanor Hoeschler collection. I remember one of those very, very first. I remember sitting at a Walker Composers Forum concert, quartet maybe, trio, I can't remember which one it was, and I'm thinking, why did I sit in the back row? They're scratching away way up there. I don't know what's going on. Turned out to be a piece by Eleanor Hoeschler, and she spent her whole life making such wonderful pieces, and if you're sitting up close, they are amazing. And so this is her special day, that this is the release month for the Eleanor Hoeschler collection. It will blow your mind if you like having your minds blown by music. 4 CDs worth of it, you'll never be the same again. Those are also back there, and that's really the thrill of the job that I was allowed to do. Discover something, run with it, change the world maybe. Oh, and while we're on this table, there's something here. I wanted to get all of your autographs. And here you all are in one space at one time, and with the addition of a pen, I invite you, whenever you see this thing, please sign, say anything you may want to say on it, and maybe one day I'll put an LP in there, but I don't know what it would be yet. Anyway, don't leave without having signed that. It was gratifying to note that some artists had actual career benefits with every release or forum activity. Mark Applebaum was picked by David Tudor since John Cage died before deciding who would get to play with Merce at the Flux Arena Rama. Who remembers the Flux Arena Rama?
I do.
Yay! You can ask us about it afterwards if you want. A long-haired 18-year-old's life changed that day, and 11 Innova releases later, he has tenure at Stanford and kept his long hair. I'm still skeptical about attaching the word career to that of composer, but it's not for want of effort. Thanks to Linda, who just showed up finally. $1, as she's told me 100 times.
I know.
Yeah. And John and the whole forum team throughout the generations, the boards over the years, the foundation folk, the presenters, performers, supporters out there, everyone here, whether they came tonight or not, and the artists who keep being needy and thereby giving us jobs. When I heard I won a Bush Fellowship in 2003, John's first reaction was, oh no, what are we going to do? I don't know, but I'll keep trying and we'll find out together. So that was the end of the written portion. Are there any...
These things are really better with fewer words, but I only really want to say that before most of you got here, I had a chance to talk with Jeffrey Brooks a little bit. What I didn't realize is when Philip was hired, there were 2 other candidates. Oh, Fritz, you're here, good. I hear Fritz, Linda, and Jeffrey were part of this team with Harry Brule, a good longtime friend of the forum, still is, thankfully. But I understand there were 2 other candidates besides Philip, and based on his answers, he was not the chosen candidate. Once he said a few words, they thought they'd better move on to somebody else. But they had, thankfully, smartened up and did hire Philip because, as I understand it, I don't know who the other 2 were.
Joe Klein and...
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Joe Klein was the main one, yeah.
The
Okay.
main one, right.
We would not have Innova as we have it today without Philip. And I do think that is worth saying. Philip, for the last 3 months, has worked 24/7 to get this new website up because of several huge issues we had with malware and hacking of old websites, and it is a phenomenal website that I think really does represent the phenomenal label that Innova has become. And I do nothing but sit back and watch he and Chris and Steve put this thing together in the last 3 months, and it really is not just a labor of love. It really has now come to identify a lot of what the forum is, and we're also featuring it on our new website on the homepage. Do take a look sometime. It's really cool. You get a lot of opportunity to hear new things, things you've never heard before. It's a fun site to explore, to understand the world of new music in this country, and it is hugely interesting, I think, from a variety of perspectives. And I just welcome all of you here tonight. Thank you for helping Philip celebrate 20 years. We would not be who we are without him, and I want to give him my best. Thank you. And of course, Linda,
Philip was one of the pioneers who really helped make the forum the organization it is today. Because some of you may remember, I came at the behest of Randall Davidson and Steve Pauls to help out for 6 months a year max. And that turned into a 13-year career and real love for me. We wouldn't be on the radio today if it weren't for Jeffrey Brooks.
yes, right.
Who did that. We had so little money, it was going for concerts, and we had to figure out to get some attention of the foundation so we could get people reinvesting in the forum, because a lot of people had given up on it in 1991. So Jeffrey said we should be doing something with NPR, and it was kind of like Andy Rooney and Judy Garland saying, let's put on a show, and I said, Jeff, do it, figure out what it should be, and he did The Composer's Voice, and which was a marvelous show, just nothing like it since then. Fritz Bergmann started the chapters after a few years, and Fritz was always such a great boost to me, because he would, when I would do things like bring in an industrial psychologist, which came from my corporate background, Fritz said, she's only going to be here 6 months. Humor her, you know, and so kept the staff going. Karen Nelson, I said, we're losing money on the concerts. We could pay everybody, take them out to dinner for what we're paying to put on concerts. I said,
stand on the corner and hand out $5.
Exactly. And I said, figure out how we should do things differently. And Karen did that. Great cheerleader. Liz Schmidt ran the office and ran us all in all ways, and always spunky. Just a really great team of people. I was very fortunate to have inherited some very talented people. Who else was there? That was kind of it.
That was kind of cool.
That was kind of it, yes.
Well, Homer.
Homer. But Homer wasn't
Eleanor.
there.
Eleanor was
No,
the whole big
yeah.
kind
People kind of came in and out.
Doing funding.
Right. It was, that's right, Lorianne, that was the other person doing development with Fritz. But anyway, so we had this team, and we were beginning to do some interesting new things, and lo and behold, we decided we had some money to hire another staff person. So we interviewed, and we got some really amazing candidates. Joe Klein was a very worthy competitor. Philip went off to the University of Texas and taught there. And Philip came, and the thing that made me hesitate about hiring Philip was he said, please hire me. And I thought, oh no, this guy is desperate, he might be nuts. Well, we knew he was nuts, but we liked that, so were the rest of us. And we liked that in Philip, because he came and invented things right away, added more energy to the group, and really helped us go off in some new directions. The only trouble with Philip is he didn't always tell you what directions he was going off on. And I remember once all of a sudden I got, about 3 days before, the notice about a bamboo festival that Philip was putting on a landmark, and I said, Philip, you have to tell me in advance that you're doing these things. Or when he showed up with 35 Vietnamese instead of 5 for our Vietnamese festival, so we didn't have the budget to put him in any hotel. So I called up the seminary and went to see if we could find rooms for them there, which turned out to be a great stroke of luck, because the local Vietnamese kept wanting to pick at us, and they went to every hotel in town to find these musicians from Ho Chi Minh City. Couldn't find them because they were socked away at the seminary. But Philip is as good an employee as you get. I've hired hundreds of people in my life. Philip is creative. He is part of the team. He is one of the most productive human beings you'd ever meet. And the issue with Philip is always to try to catch up with him because you never will be ahead of him. And John Nuechterlein, when he took over, said, "How do you manage Philip?" I said, "You don't. You just try to find out what he's doing before it starts." So, Philip, it was a great time. Thank you.
So I was part of that 3-member interview squad that interviewed Philip, and I just have a short anecdote, which is, well, Philip was interesting. One that he was just coming from Iowa, where he could have gone any place, but he went to Iowa to study with Kangaburo, which I thought, oh, that's interesting, because it's kind of quirky. But Linda had hired Harry Brule to devise a test where you ask questions of past experiences that would predict future performance. And as Linda said, it was miserable. So
For them, not as well as for me.
Yeah.
We never paid Harry either.
That's okay.
But the one question I wanted to share with you was, there was a question about how Philip would balance his composing work with his more office work. And his answer was, how do we know that we're not composing right now? I thought, this is the guy. So, this is, so, my case was not so much that Philip failed the test, but the test failed Philip. Nothing against her.
One brief recollection about the founding of Innovo. It was, in the beginning, a huge spreadsheet that we made. We had how much we had input, we had how much it was, we were going to earn on each one, we had how much we were going to spend on each one, and I remember sitting with Neil Cuthbert playing the scenarios. Okay, so if we make this one, then the line goes up. If we make this one, then the line goes down. And if we make this one, the line stays flat. And that's what we're looking for right there. And so we put all that together, and then Philip came in, we handed it to Philip, and it didn't go any of those ways. It didn't go the way Philip made it go. And we have this huge thing here now that is just great to watch and see it go. So thanks, Philip, for that. And it was so much fun to be around to start that. And it's great to see all you people.
Yes, next. Oh, all right.
You like
written on a napkin, the best kind.
No, you like surprises. So.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Coming over here in the car, I decided I would come up in honor of your 20th anniversary. 20 things about Philip. Okay, so 11 are things you have, and 9 are things that will be explained. Okay, so 20 things. Very short, very short. Okay, things that Philip has: 2 good ears, 1 even better brain, 4 equal temperaments, namely inventive, persistent, unflappable, and optimistic. 4 humors: non-traditional tunings, non-traditional instrumentations, non-traditional pets, non-traditional summer cabin.